All right, we're going to get started. As we might have a few more people joining us, so I'll just admit people as they come in. But thank you for joining us today for this important session and discussion on social media use and how to help protect your own child. So just to introduce ourselves, some of you I think have been on our sessions previous, but I'm Ashley Barton. I'm the 6th grade school counselor.
I'm Sarah Hughes. I am the 7th grade school counselor.
And I'm Jessica Stevenson, the 8th grade counselor.
All right. So during today's presentation, we're going to be covering a lot of information around social media use amongst our kids. And we hope that you find the information that we'll share today and the resources to be helpful in learning how you can help to set some healthy limits and boundaries for your children and their social media use, and ensure that you're doing everything that you can to keep them safe, which can be difficult in today's world of technology because it's such a learning curve for us. And so through today's presentation, we are going to share a lot of resources with you to give to you to be able to kind of delve into on your own. If we went into every single safety technology feature, we'd be here for 5 hours. So we're going to be sharing a lot with you. And again, we'll be sharing links that you can follow up with after our meeting. And of course, you can always reach out to any of us after the session today. Okay. So to start things off, I'm going to be sharing a quick personal video. I have a Snapchat account and I downloaded it a few years ago just as a way for me to kind of get to understand how the app worked, because so many of my students were on Snapchat. And I'm sure that many parents in this session have heard of Snapchat. You've probably heard lots of negative things about Snapchat. It's an app that a lot of our drama, I would say, at school is centered around. So again, I downloaded it on my phone a few years ago just to get a feel for how it worked. And basically now my own children kind of use it for just the funny, it has like funny filters that you can use. And so from this video, sorry, I'm still entering people here. From this video, you're going to see just how easy it is for our children, even my 5-year-old, to accidentally post a video that maybe they didn't intend to share, and that their own parent, myself, didn't even know was posted until I had someone messaging me. So we're going to start off with just a quick little lighthearted video before we get into the more serious nature of our topic today. Sorry, hello ones. There we go. All right, so let me go back to this slide. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you today just to show you that there is absolutely no judgment today. Even as a school counselor myself, my own daughter was able to figure out how to put a filter on, which gave her makeup and lipstick, and did what some would probably view as an inappropriate maybe dance for a 5-year-old. And she posted it online. So, and this was all again without me knowing about it. So as parents, we're not perfect. I was in the house when she was doing that and had no idea what she was doing. So we can just strive to be the best, the best possible parents that we can be to our kids, and show them that, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. I think sometimes when we kind of catch our kids doing certain things like that, we feel like we have to come down really hard and, like, you know, give them a significant punishment. And sometimes obviously there are situations that do call for that. But I think the more important thing is the conversation that comes out with that situation, and making it a learning experience for your child. So you're all amazing parents just by being here today and wanting to learn more about this topic. So again, as we go through today, there's no judgment. Myself, Jess, Sarah, like, I think everyone on this can say that they're on their phone more than they should be. It's just reality. So this isn't to say you're doing things wrong as a parent. This is just to share with you how you can learn and grow with your child in using technology. All right. So as we kind of dive into the more serious nature of our discussion today, we just wanted to start off with a second video clip. And this touches on the toxic influence that social media can have, especially on our young girls, but it's also applicable to our boys as well. So I'm going to play this video.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you.
How do I listen to this? I don't want to ruin the lipstick. Social media can be good, but it can be bad as well. In terms of her building her confidence, it can build her confidence.
Marjorie's just trying to find herself now, she's not influenced by social media yet.
Most of the influencers that I've seen have definitely had a positive impact on me. Hey guys, here's a beauty hack I'm obsessed with. I am so happy. Look at how cinched my waist is. Look at how flat my stomach is. The shortcut to flawless skin.
You know that Botox doesn't just reduce wrinkles, right? Baby Botox is amazing. You're never too young to start.
That is not me.
There are these great powders. They stop you feeling hungry so you can always get breakfast and lunch.
And you have to treat yourself to a chemical peel. They're a total glow up. They burn away the top layers of your skin and let new skin grow through.
Hey, Anuja, if your teeth are uneven, you always file them down with a nail file. It's literally so simple.
Your teeth. Don't put up with your thin lips, sweetie. Lip filler kits let you inject yourself at home. They're my total go-to.
Fake eyelashes are so easy to glue on. If you cut your eyelashes, there's some really great pills you can use.
Keep telling yourself you're not hungry. You're just thirsty.
Never look it again. Don't get into your sexy Botox. Remember, skinny is never finished.
It's have you actually seen stuff like that?
Yeah. A lot. This stuff is on every girl's feed. They're watching, right? I mean, at night when I can't see them.
It's scary to me that my kids are watching this and they think that's how they have to look.
I saw one of the teeth filing videos. I remember that one. I remember seeing that all over. I know this stuff. I can't prevent them from seeing these, but I can talk to them about it.
100% always be talking and have Peyton know that she can always ask me anything.
My mom has taught me not to listen to people like that and to be proud of who I am.
Okay. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Dove Self-Esteem Project before, but I just wanted to share with you quickly their website. And again, there's more, it's not just for girls, but the Dove Self-Esteem Project actually has a lot of great resources online. And I just wanted to show you, they even have a lot of our kids are into Roblox right now. And so this is a gaming experience, which is a positive space for girls. So they kind of connect with kids on that level in terms of different videos that they're using and interested in. But you can actually filter all their articles by age group, which is really nice. And you can see some of the topics that they cover, body image, female stereotypes, health and well-being, body image, all that stuff. So it's a really great site to kind of look around on and share some of the information with your child.
So I try to add to their videos are fantastic. Like they're eye-opening as an adult to watch them, but even like if you were watching them with your child, there's great conversation that can come from some of the videos they've created.
Yeah, so definitely take a look at that if you've never heard of that resource before. All right. Ooh. We were going to quiz everyone to see what, if you know, what your technology kind of knowledge is in terms of all these different apps. I'm sure many of you know what they are. These are some of the really popular ones that our students are using. TikTok, this is Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So we surveyed about almost 499 of our students to ask them some questions about their social media use, just to share with you. Because we felt like it would be some interesting data to share about our own students here.
And we think that we should.
Oh, yes. We were, so we told the students that it was an anonymous survey, that it was not linked to email, nothing. But we're not sure if the students answered. I think they were still nervous that so whatever they put on here, that somehow it would get back to them and their parents. So we don't think, we hope that the numbers are accurate, but realistically they're
much higher.
Yes.
Yeah. I can tell you my 8th graders said that most of them are not accurate.
Yes. So 91% of our students have a cell phone, which isn't surprising. Most middle school students, and if your child doesn't have a phone, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. But we're just showing you that the majority of our students here do have a cell phone. So my parent checks my social media account and or requires that I share my password. We feel that this is something really simple that you can do to help protect your child. If they know that you have access to their phone, it's your right as a parent to check their accounts, which I think sometimes families feel like that's an invasion of privacy or what have you. But this is a really, really simple thing you can do to just kind of put an extra layer of protection on there. If you make your child share all their passwords, we had a speaker come in last year and he spoke about his child, and he made his child use the same password for every single account on his phone. So you can see here that 41% of students, which equated to about 206 students, said that their parent checks their social media account and or requires that they share the password. But you can see that about 58% said that they don't have that requirement. I have stayed up past my bedtime using electronics, so talking with friends, scrolling, playing video games, which I can also say I am guilty of doing as well. So 307 students reported that, yes, they have stayed up past their bedtime using electronics. I have social media accounts that my parents are unaware of. We thought that this was an important one. So 90 students, or 18%, said that, yes, they do have social media accounts that parents are unaware of. I feel like I was surprised by that number. I feel like there's a much higher number of students that probably have social media accounts that their parents are not aware of. So,
and this is one of the ones that some of the kids that my 8th graders had shared with me. They're like, yeah, that we were afraid like we would get in trouble if we put that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot higher as well.
I have been on a site or an app where a stranger has reached out to me. So 31% of students, which equated to 159 kids, reported that, yes, they have been on a site or an app where a stranger has reached out to them. Everyone on my friend or contact list is someone that I have met in person. So 112 students put no. So meaning that they have met with someone that's not necessarily a friend or someone that they personally know. So we wanted to ask students about how they felt when they're on social media. So different things that they've experienced. So the largest, about 107 students responded feeling left out. So they've been on social media and felt out in some way. So a lot of times this happens like in group chats that kids are having. Maybe they isolate a student and not include them in the conversation. So you can see the different things that we talked about. So students have felt bad about themselves at some point on social media, racism or discrimination, felt scared, felt angry, etc. And we're not just talking about cell phones, but gaming apps as well, because a lot of kids actually can communicate with people through their video games that they're playing, which parents may not always realize. So that's an important thing to highlight as well, that kids can be talking to strangers that they don't know on those gaming apps as well as through their phones.
Ashley and I are having some technical difficulties, so we're sharing a computer today. So kids, cell phones are given to kids a lot often by middle school. I would say the majority of my 7th graders have them. I do still have a handful of them that don't have cell phones. By 8th grade, we start to get phone calls from parents of students that don't have cell phones, asking us like our opinion on if their child is going to start to feel sort of left out because they don't have a cell phone to connect with peers, et cetera. And it is obviously a personal preference, but it is sort of a balancing act by that point. You know, personally, I have three sons at home, one of which is almost 12. He's in 6th grade, but he's in a 6th grade that's in an elementary school. So I feel like it's a little bit different than being here where it's in a middle school. We have not given him a cell phone, and he truly feels like we need to like start a support group for him because he's the only one, which is definitely not true. But we have given him an iPad, and he also has an Oculus. So like what Ashley was saying, like gaming apps, you know, on the Oculus. So on some of the gaming apps, like if your kids are playing Fortnite, often they are playing with people that they know. They're playing with their peers. They're all sort of on together. On something like VR, the Oculus, I would say 99% of the people that they play with, they do not know. They are strangers from all over the world. It's actually really much more rare for them to get a login and a code to give to a peer and that they get on VR together. So almost everyone they play on something like a VR is a stranger. I could just do this one. Okay. Oh, sorry. So I was going to ask you in the chat, can everyone just name something a problem that you think sort of can arise, the types of things that cell phones cause? If you can, like, even if it's just like 2 words or a couple words, can you type in the chat, what types of problems do you think can arise from cell phone use?
And then Jess, if you can read them, because we can't.
I got it.
Well, I don't want to mess with anything
Okay.
that's working well right now.
No, I got them. Got distractions, depression, anxiety, too much screen time in general, and fear of missing out. Lack of knowing how to really communicate, which is a good one. We see that. Bullying, absolutely. Lack of interpersonal skills.
I will say that while people are adding some things in, I watched a webinar yesterday that I'm going to share with everyone because I thought it was really good. And the person in the video or in the webinar was saying that because kids are always connected in some way with their phones and you can say that connecting with peers through that is not a personal connection. I agree with that. But kids don't know how to deal with quiet. So without being connected.
Good morning, 8th grade teachers. At this time, you will escort your students to the auditorium for March Madness. That is 8th grade. 8th grade teachers, please bring your students to the auditorium.
And so often they'll say, like, I'm so lonely, because they don't know how to deal with just being by themselves because they're always connected in some way with their phones. So it's an interesting point that kids don't know how to deal with that.
Like that was kind of one of our comments said too, like not paying attention when being spoken to. I feel like even as an adult, and I've asked the kids when we were in there too, like how many of them have felt like as a parent hasn't been present with them when they're on their phone or on an electronic, and usually everybody raised their hand. Like I've done it to people, and I've also experienced it on the other end. So I feel like even as the adults, like just paying attention to, we're gonna have announcements.
Congratulations to all of you that were paying attention. 8th grade teachers, please bring your students to the gymnasium.
We have March Madness today, so the kids are really excited, and we'll probably be interrupted about 10 more times during this session.
So the things that have been mentioned in the chat, it's sort of like, yes, check all of the above. Those are all problems that arise. They are all things that we see. There are things that we discuss as a clinical staff. There are things we discuss with parents, administration, and we don't know how to solve them all, but we chip away at the things that we can, whether it's trying to hold face-to-face mediations between students that aren't getting along or that have had issues, and teach them how to speak and talk to each other in person, things like that. sort of to Jess's point, I wait tables on the side at a restaurant, a really like fine dining restaurant. And, you know, I tell the kids all the time, I can't tell you the number of times I'll walk up and approach a table and both parties are on a cell phone and really not even paying attention to me. And, you know, at 45 years old, I've learned to just sort of walk away from the table and come back when they're ready. But that is you know, it is trying to be good role models for our kids is really important as well. Okay. So we put this slide up just for you to sort of get an idea about age restrictions. One time we had a speaker come in many years ago, and I remember him asking the kids, you know, please stand up if you have and they would stand up, you know, do you have a Twitter account? Do you have a Facebook account? Do you have Instagram? Whatever. And, you know, truly the age restriction is at that for many of those is 13. And so none of our 6th graders should have them. Many of our 7th graders should not have them, or most of them. And it's not until 8th grade that you should see a lot of those accounts. There was this Online Privacy Protection Act, and really it was put into place to put parents more in control of the information that's collected about your children. But the problem that we see as we ask kids about the extra accounts that they have that they're like, maybe their parents don't know about, like how do they work around those things, is that kids can still have access to sites and be providing their information to the sites without knowing or not knowing. So like, for example, a lot of these things you sign up for by just having an email address, but a lot of them don't send you back a confirmation to your email to double check that it's a real email address. Instead, you just have to throw in an email address. So kids make up email addresses and sign up for additional accounts.
And also, I just want to add to that if your child is asking you to download something, they're begging you, like, please, I mean, you can put it on that. A lot of kids don't know that there's age restrictions on these apps. You can say like, nope, it's illegal. I can't. Yeah. What I'm telling my son, but you know, you can put it on that, or you can tell them to do the research. Like, oh, okay, well, can you do some research into like, are you allowed to have that app, and make them tell you like, oh, actually, no, I'm not old enough yet. So, and there's good reason for that in terms of, you know, we know that kids' brains are not as developed, right, as ours are, or at the point of, you know, when the prefrontal cortex isn't really developed until I think it's age 25. So like, if you're talking about a 12-year-old, like that's not developed yet. So they can't handle the same types of things that, you know, someone that's older could handle. And so, you know, even having that conversation, like you're just not saying like, no, but explaining to your child, you know, the research behind it. It's not just because you're being, you know, just a mean parent, you know, like they all think that we are.
And I'm sure many of you have all had the experience of typing something in your search on your phone. Like I used the example the other day, I looked up lilacs, like the flower, and I typed it in once. And within seconds, everything that came up on my Instagram feed and some of the other feeds that I have, everything was about lilacs. Every picture that was sent to me from random places was about lilacs. And so again, some of these sites are collecting information on kids and then turning it around and feeding things back to them based on what they search. And, you know, I can tell you as school counselors, we search like crazy things all the time on our computers, like, you know, because of our jobs. And so you can only imagine the things that, you know, kids this age group search, and then it's being turned around and fed back to them. So not getting enough sleep. We know that kids this age need a ton of sleep. I would say, you know, just personally, when I was this age, I was definitely, you know, dipping into the, you know, sleeping until 11 o'clock in the morning, on weekends and things like that. We were getting lots of sleep. We did not have these distractions. You know, we always encourage parents take their devices at night. Even have like in my house, we have like the command center with our whiteboard, like, you know, calendar, and we have a place where devices get plugged in. And that way it forces you to sort of be, again, that like good role model for your use of devices too, that you can show them that, listen, downstairs in the kitchen, we all plug our stuff in at night. It's all staying down there after whatever time you choose.
I think it's too, Sarah, and I can't remember what our statistic was from the kids, but I think a good majority of them said that they've stayed up past their bedtime using their cell phones.
Yes. Sometimes very late into the night.
Yeah.
We'll have kids that'll come in and they're like, I'm so tired. I don't want to go to math class today. I'm like, oh, like, how late were you up? And they'll be like, I don't know, like 12:30. I'm like, do your parents know you were up till 12:30? They're like, no, they were asleep by 8:30. Like,
and that's why with what Sarah said, with taking the phone out of the room, like that is another, like such an easy, simple step you can take. Because even if they say like, I'm not going to go on it, like, if even us as adults, like I keep my phone right next to my bed, and I, you know, instead of reading or doing something productive, I'll just go and grab my phone and start scrolling. And so it's the same thing. Like if they have the phone in their room, they're going to be on it. So I would definitely, that's a strong recommendation, is to not allow your child to keep their phone in their phone, their iPad, any of that stuff in their room at night.
Can I just add, there was a parent who responded in the chat that they had their children watch Social Dilemma on Netflix, which if you haven't seen it is great. It really talks about a lot of this stuff and some of the problems with social media. And a lot of people who've created some of these apps they won't allow their own kids even to use some of these apps. So if you haven't seen that, that is on Netflix.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we've talked about, we just recently talked about maybe like seeing if we could show it as part of a lesson or something in school. We just have to go through and see if it's completely appropriate for all 3 age levels. So cyberbullying, I'll use the term bullying lightly, but mean behavior on, you know, social media is probably, at least in 7th grade, the thing that I see most. I don't think I've gotten through a week of school yet this year, other than maybe the first month of school where a student didn't come in and have a whole bunch of screenshots to show me of somebody being mean online. They do it a lot in private chats that they have with small groups of people. At this, you know, this age group, just like when we were kids, people are friends, and next week people are not friends. And you know, thankfully this did not exist when we were kids, but now it does. And kids are pretty cruel to each other, whether it's posting really mean pictures of people. I've had, you know, girls that have lots of photos of their friends, because we all are constantly taking photos, and they'll have photos of like their friend when they first woke up in the morning, or their friend when they looked really terrible or something like that. And they're not friends anymore, and they're posting pictures of them everywhere. Whether it's just taking screenshots out of context of things that people have said and posting them so that other people can see them and comment, taking screenshots and tagging other people in them. They do a lot of online mean behavior.
And with Snapchat, if you don't know how Snapchat works, it deletes after 24 hours. So if we have a student that reports something that happened over the weekend and they didn't take a screenshot or a screen recording or whatever it is, there's no proof that it happened. And it's like, while we don't want to say we don't believe the student, we do need to have some sort of evidence in order to, you know, bring that student in and give some sort of disciplinary consequence. So with Snapchat, it deletes after 24 hours. I also had a student that had a situation where she was talking with a student on Snapchat, because you can send private messages on Snapchat too. So a lot of kids use that in place of texting. But
also parents don't check that. So I have a lot of kids that will only do their texting on Snapchat. So their parents, even if they've had Bark app or some of those, I don't think it shows up in that.
I don't think it doesn't take away from their like data, like their texting limit or whatever on their phone too. I don't think. But I had a student that was in a situation where another student changed their Snapchat name and put her name in there, and then sent a mean message to this other boy. And so it looked like she sent the message instead of the other person, and so she had a whole thing with that because he believed that the message came from her and it didn't. And so so Snapchat is one of those apps where we're just like, don't let your kid download Snapchat. Snapchat is, I feel like most of the time it's not used for good. So that's an app to be very mindful of.
And it is the one that I think we get the most reports from is Snapchat.
Yeah, definitely.
Bullying laws have changed a bit. And I think it's probably some of it is because of technology. We've always taught kids about bullying is really like true bullying is, it used to be something that happened over time. It was repetitive in nature. Usually there was some sort of a differential between the kids, whether it's age or something like that. But they have changed the bullying laws, and now it can be actually a single act, just one incident of something that happened. But if it's pervasive and it really impacts like more globally, a group of people. So we have a lot of students that will say to us, we'll bring them in to talk to them about something. And they're like, well, I mean, I did that on the weekend. It doesn't matter. The thing is, once it comes into school and someone's talking about it with us, it means that it's impacting their learning because it's taking them out of the classroom and out of where they really truly need to be. So once it comes into the building, it is our problem, even if it happened on Saturday. And once it becomes our problem and we realize how global it has had impact, then it does start to go out into the bullying realm of things. Sexting, a lot of parents, we have talked to parents, asked them how much do they think like their kids have been exposed to this. Again, no offense to any parent, all of us included. We assume, not very much at this age group, and we find it's actually quite the opposite. We have asked our students, how many times they've received inappropriate pictures. And I will say many of our students talk about receiving them all the time.
Jess, I think you can speak to.
Yeah, can I jump into that? Just out of 8th grade, I feel like the kids are very open sometimes with things they share. So I was asking kids because we were talking about the survey in general, and I had a group of girls in here. And they said that they would estimate that 90% of the girls have received an inappropriate picture from a boy that's here at school. And they say it happens on Snapchat because it disappears. It's like, it wasn't something that was requested. They're just randomly sent. And most of the girls knew like right away, they just like deleted it and blocked the person. But they said like the boys put it out there in hopes, I think, that they're going to get a picture sent in return. But I was shocked when they said probably about 90% of the kids, they said that, no, we've all received them from other kids here at school. And some even I said, Sarah, your kids, right? Said people that they didn't know.
Yeah. I've had 7th grade girls tell me that they have received inappropriate pictures from people they don't even know, strangers. And again, when you look at who your kids are friends with, we talk to them about it all the time. Maybe on like your Instagram, which they don't use because they're not as old as we are. Like I would say 90% of my Instagram are people that are friends of mine. And then the 10% that aren't are usually some sort of like athletic influencers or somebody that I follow or something like that. But it is not the same for them. They, I would say, follow far more people that they don't know on their social media apps than they do know. And because they can get lots of private messages, my 7th grade girls said they get private messages of inappropriate pictures all the time. So understanding kid language. So we gave a couple of examples. So just for a moment in the chat, if you know what POS or KMS or LMIRL is, just type it in there if you know what it means.
We did not know what these mean, by the way.
We knew what one of them was.
Yeah, one of them was.
Nobody. Okay, so yeah, we didn't really know what some of them are. We went on and looked at a whole bunch more also. POS is, I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Piece of, you know what.
There's also, or it could be used as parent over shoulder.
Oh, that's
that's what it is. Parent over shoulder.
I was like, what did that mean?
Yeah.
Yes,
Parents over shoulder.
Yes,
so again, when they're trying to be sneaky with you, you know, that there is a parent lingering, paying attention to what I'm doing. So they give that code to their friends. I have, you know, we just did our SOS lesson, our signs of suicide lesson. And in it, I talked a lot with the 7th graders about KMS or KYS. So it's kill myself or kill yourself. I talked about it in two aspects. One, I talked about it with the boys about their language and the things that they do on gaming. Again, I have 3 sons. I listen to it all the time. There's lots of swearing and just mean things. And there is a lot of, oh my God, you're so dumb, just go kill yourself. Things like that. We extensively talked about that not being figurative language and things like that. And KMS, I see it all the time in the screenshots I get when kids are coming to report stuff. And, you know, the girls will tell me, well, I mean it more like eye roll, like, kill myself. I'm like, again, that's not figurative language. It's not how you should be using it. And the last one was, let's meet in real life. Again, that should be a really big red flag. If you see that typed somewhere, we have certainly over our years, the 3 of us dealt with students that have gone and met with people in real life that were strangers, that they met online.
So this is a link. I mean, you can Google teen slang, teen emojis, because the emojis, which we didn't share here for examples, but there's lots of different meanings to emojis that you wouldn't even probably bat an eye at if you saw your kid using. You'd be like, okay, whatever. But there's lots of different meanings behind emojis. So it's really important that as a parent, you kind of at least familiarize yourself with some of that.
Yeah. And this is the last slide I'm going to talk about, but you know, the students are really good at fooling you. They're very good at fooling us. Even within our classrooms, they are constantly toggling between screens all the time in the classroom. And so we've even had to put in sort of like a security checkpoint for that, where teachers can be basically watching their screens really closely, which is just like an added addition of like, you know, trying to teach a class, but also pay attention to all the different screens they're on. But they're doing it to you at home also. And when we really sat down and talked to the kids about, do you have extra accounts that your parents don't know about? I would say of the kids that I just like verbally like surveyed in my office, 100% of them had extra accounts that their parents did not know about. Some
kids would say that they have one account for their parents that their parents follow, like an Instagram, or like Sarah said, most kids don't have Instagram anymore, but like a TikTok or something that for their family, and then another TikTok for like their friends.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like they all said that. They said they have one for their family and certain friends, and then they have their other ones. And some of them said they don't just have like 1 or 2. Some of them have like 7, 8, 9 other accounts. They also have fake apps. So like it'll appear on their phone.
Like a calculator,
but really it collects photos. And they're pretty sneaky about it. So we're never going to be perfect about these things. And Jess is going to talk more about some of this stuff, but the more we can try to stay up to date with them, you know, we are in a good position because we constantly ask them when we don't understand something here at school. So as much information as we can get out to you, we will.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about how you either gain control, like regain control, if you feel like kids already have electronics and they've been exposed to this stuff, or if you haven't given a cell phone yet, things you can do kind of to set them up for that. We've talked about some of this stuff, and there's going to be a lot of information on the slide, so I'm going to try to like highlight some of the things we haven't really talked about already. But the overarching message really through all of this is that you have the control and have the power. I feel like kids think that it's their right once they get the cell phone to do what they want on it, when really it's a privilege and it's something that you can set really firm limits and boundaries with them from the get-go. Even though it's an age where they want independence, they also thrive with structure and with boundaries. So it's important that they have those in place. Ash, can you slip for me? So if your child doesn't have social media yet, then these would be questions to ask. But if they already have it, there might be things just to think about. The first thing is just remembering too, that there's that age restriction. So is your kid on there and they don't meet the age restriction to be on there? Technically, that's like the legal age. So you have to think about what message is that sending them? Like, are all laws applicable to them or just some? Things to ask, so is your child resilient enough to handle anything that happens negatively online? And that can be something from being pressured to do something, maybe to post something or to like something that doesn't feel right to them, or engage in some type of behavior that they might feel is mean behavior. Or it could be like, there's a lot of fear of missing out. So can your kid tolerate that? Some kids can't handle that, especially if it's like a friend group that's a triad and two of their friends do something and they post it and they're left out. I have a lot of kids that come down. A lot of times it's not intentional. Sometimes it is. Kids are just trying to be mean, but other times they're just doing things and post a picture because that's what they do. And some kids really, really struggle to be that, to be left out of those situations. So can your child handle that? Do they understand the importance of privacy? Have you set limits with them and talked to them about those things? Because I feel like that's really important for them. Sometimes they don't know what types of pictures they can and can't post. I think we had a guy a couple years ago that came and talked about, he was a detective, and he talked about even posting a picture, like where you post it. Are you in your bedroom? Sometimes like if you have certain things turned on, it can link to where you are, and a predator could find out really quickly, like where you are, or are you posting something in your yard and your house number's behind you, or do you have your McGee track t-shirt on so they know you are a student at McGee and run track, like things that we would never think about. And obviously we don't want to balance. We don't want to freak kids out either, but I feel like those conversations and that communication with them is really important. Are they able to set boundaries, whether that be with their time on there? Like I know a lot of kids will get upset with other kids because they left them unanswered on a couple hours. So it's like the expectation is like, I say, put something out there to you on one of these apps or text message you, and you're supposed to respond to me right away. And that can become very stressful for kids. So do they know how to set a boundary, and do they know how to say no to things that they don't feel comfortable with? And then do they know if somebody does something that they're uncomfortable with, how do they respond to that? How do they block them? How do they report them? What are the steps they would go through to handle some of those situations? So there's a lot of maturity that comes with handling some of these things. And you want to make sure that your child is in a place where they can do those things, or they know if they're not sure that they can come in and talk to you about it.
Yes,
like
if I can just add really quickly,
Yep.
Just like I said in the beginning, how important it is to, like, if your kid makes a mistake using social media, to not come down super harsh. And again, I'm not telling anyone how to parent, but if you do, and they become scared to that, they may not feel like they can go to you and say like, hey, I was in a group chat and this was a discussion that was taking place. I wasn't comfortable with it, because they may think they're going to get in trouble. So again, just like reinforcing with kids, like limits and rules and your expectations, but you still want to make sure that they feel like they can come to you in those situations when something's going on that they're uncomfortable with, or with a mistake that they made.
Yeah. And I can give you even like several years ago, I had a student who was a great kid, straight A student, but they make mistakes and they don't know how to handle all of this stuff. And her father was somewhere in the police department, so she was not allowed to have social media. And she did. She had an account that he didn't know about, and somebody was messaging her and one of her friends, and they realized it was not somebody that they knew, and they got really nervous, but they were afraid to say anything to anybody because she was like, my dad is going to kill me if he finds out I have, at that point it was Facebook. So it was a long time ago, this Facebook account. So again, it's like, you want to set that message, a hard message, but you want them to be able to come to you if they get themselves into something that they're not sure how to handle. The last one I want to talk about here is, we talked a little bit about the sexting, but also pornography. Like, they have access to anything on their phone or their computer, and so I feel like pornography in general, like my I have three nephews that are high school, college age, and I know my brother-in-law's had to have this talk with them because even the way they were talking to girls, like they see what they see in pornography and then they think that's reality, and that's the reality of how sex should be and how they should talk and treat someone. So I feel like these, because they have access and this is at their disposal, those conversations are really, really important. The same thing with racism and discrimination. I think a lot of our kids had said they had experienced that or witnessed it. So also, what are your expectations for how they talk to other people online? Things you can do. The biggest thing is communication with your child. Make sure you're talking to them about who they're following, what message they're getting from some of the things that they're seeing on there, kind of like the Dove video we watched. Like, I think the girl originally said that she didn't feel like she was swayed by the messaging on social media at all until she actually watched it and was like, oh my gosh, I see these things all the time. So I don't think some of these, the way kids are told that they need to act or to look is subliminal, and they don't realize kind of that they're being programmed really to think a certain way about themselves. Setting up expectations and rules. I think on one of the other sides, we have a link to actually set up a contract if that was something you were interested in. So you could see one of those. The time restrictions are big, not just for like going to bed at night and what time we put phones away, but also I know most cell phones now track what is your screen time usage. I think they said on something we looked up that there was an average, teens right now are averaging like 7.5 hours a day of screen time, which to me was concerning. Obviously they're on their Chromebooks here at school, but then they go home and they're on their phones. And there's that trouble disconnecting. We talked about phones at night, and then just checking your phone, making sure that you're checking their phone periodically or regularly. Maybe you have regular check-ins so they know that you're on top of what they're doing. I feel like a lot of kids said like their parents don't know their passwords. They don't check their social media. So they kind of have free reign. And some of the things that, again, like that I hear from kids and I'm even shocked by, that I guarantee you their parents have no idea is going on their cell phone. The same password, I think Ashley talked about a little bit. The gentleman that came, I said he spoke to the kids a couple years back, had talked about having the same password because God forbid anything happens, then as a parent, you can get into all of their stuff. This student, his child specifically had committed suicide, unfortunately. So but dad had that rule. So he was able to get into all of his accounts, and he found that there was some stuff going on online prior to his son committing suicide. So it's just really important. It's another layer for you to have in place to help protect your kids. Ash, can you go to the next slide? No, sorry, wait a minute.
Was it this slide, Jess?
The tech one.
Which one?
The how to use technology.
Yep. Teach how to use technology.
Yep, teach how to use technology. So I think the biggest thing is like, we can't protect our kids from all of this. They live in a world where social media is part of their life. Electronics are part of their life. Even you think in a job, I feel like how many likes do you get on something that you're selling or things like that, that content is important. They need to know how to use these things, but we need to teach them how to use them responsibly. And they don't get this education a ton in school. Like they do a little bit through their Quest class. But I don't think it's in depth. And I think they get a little bit of it in health, but it's really important as parents for you guys to have these conversations with them, research some of the stuff with them, go over the laws with them in the age restrictions and the privacy agreements that these companies have, so that they're making an informed decision with you. As a parent, if you're not on some of these apps that they're using, you should be, so that you know how they function. I know a lot of parents will have like where their kid has to friend them so that they can see their profile. Again, they might have several other accounts that you don't know about. So that's something to be aware of.
Teach them about the laws. One of the things that we kind of come across that happens if a child gets an inappropriate picture from another child and thinks it's funny and sends it to someone else to show them, that immediately becomes distribution of pornography. And so while I might have been the person that received it, I thought it was funny and I sent it to Ashley, I am actually somebody that can be charged with that. And kids don't know that, and they aren't taught that in school usually. And so it is something I think they need to be aware of.
One of the biggest things I think, even as an adult, is being mindful I think like teaching that self-awareness so that, and that's a skill obviously that will help them throughout life, but just being able to take a step back and think about like, how do I feel when I'm done using these certain apps? So if I'm on Instagram or Snapchat and I'm seeing all of these things, like after the fact, do I feel good about myself? Do I feel like I've been left out of things? And if I do feel that way, like, do I need to take a break from some of this? And I feel like even as an adult, I've recently done that and deleted some of the apps from my phone because it was sucking my time and I wasn't feeling fantastic just seeing some of the things that are going on around the world after being on those. So I feel like teaching them that skill and then for them to be able to set a boundary for themselves of like, is this really how I want to spend all of my time? I've had a couple 8th graders actually say to me recently, which I thought was kind of sad. They were like, oh, I wish I grew up in the 80s, which I thought was such a weird comment. I was like, what would make you say that? And it was the phones. They said, you guys had no phones. You could kind of just be kids and you could go out and play and not feel that constant need to be taking a picture of something or posting something or liking something. I feel like it's a lot of pressure for them to keep up with that facade.
Jess, I just want to read something that was in the chat that I think is a good
Yep.
point. Someone shared that I found that on iPhones and iPads using the screen time feature that locks down the iPad and iPhone during the time periods you as a parent sets. So the screen is locked and there's a message that tells them what time it will be unlocked. And that's, again, something really simple that will, that if their bedtime is 9 o'clock and that they're not going to be able to be on it after that time. Unless you have a really savvy kid who can somehow get around that. And then she also mentioned like a shared custody, which I think is a very common situation for a lot of our kids where, if one parent is, the fun parent or wants to be the friend and lets them kind of doesn't have as many strict boundaries. And then the other parent does, like, how do you handle that? Like, that's definitely, a really tough situation.
Even within like one household, like the person that wrote that in the chat has 2 households they were talking about, but even like within my one household, my husband and I have greatly differing, sort of experiences with this, obviously because of the lens that I come from, and he is not part of this world at all in education. And I've had to do just as much educating him just to protect the boys, as I have had to educate the kids.
So electronic agreements, like this is something if you haven't done, you could do with your kid, and it's really sitting and having a conversation and agreeing about what your expectations are, what your family values are, so that they know like what things they should be posting, not posting, what sites they can be on, like the privacy, like the privacy settings in each app. I know a lot of, like, I think we said earlier, a lot of these apps collect a lot of personal information. I know that's been a big thing with TikTok recently, where they've been talking about banning it. Because I think all that information is going to China. Not that it matters really where it goes, because it's concerning if they're collecting information on our kids anyway. I think the link in here is to one of the agreements so that you can use that as a guide. If not, there is one, I think, in our resources. And then the next slide, phone carriers, your phone carriers can help. So we're not going to go into a ton of detail on this. This would be something you would have to look into on your own. I know Verizon has Smart Family, and then I think all of the other carriers do as well, where you can limit times that kids are on things. You can limit their web browsing and things that they go on. So if you don't have that, that's definitely something to look into.
I know Verizon has like a sensitive photos thing that you can enable. So if a sensitive photo is sent, supposedly there's like an alert that the parent will get. So that's something.
And those are part of your plan, right, Ashley? Like those aren't an extra cost?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's apps that you can get that I believe all do carry a cost, but I know other families use them and they have a lot of the same things where they can filter out certain apps and they can alert you of certain things, or they can mirror what you're.
Sorry, this is the slide that I was looking for. These kind of compare all the different apps that are out, or the most popular ones. And these are kind of just like screenshots of the different ones.
And most of those, I believe have a cost, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So some of them, I mean, they're not like, I think there's different levels, tiers. But I think like Bark starts off at like $5 a month, and then it goes up if you have like, more than one child that you're monitoring on it. So they all do have different costs. I know that what I saw with Verizon, there's like called like a Just Kids plan or something. Like if you get that plan for your child's phone, the Verizon Smart Family comes with that. If you get it separate from, if your kid doesn't have that specific plan, then there is a small fee, but otherwise it does come with it. So that may be something to ask about with your specific carrier.
So you can look into some of these, something to be aware of. I know like with things like that, specifically the Bark app, just because I know a family that was using that one, it mirrors what's on the kid's phone in terms of text messages and stuff like that. But I think same thing too, there's that loophole with Snapchat where kids can message and stuff on there. And it can't be seen. So I don't know if you can get into specific apps that your kids are using and look at those. I'm not really sure how that works, but I know kids were telling me that they know that that's why they specifically use the messaging in Snapchat, was because their parents who had some of these apps could not see the messages in Snapchat. So I think they're so savvy, and there's loopholes and technology changes all the time. So it's stuff that's really hard to keep up on, but I feel like that's why it's so important to have conversations and set boundaries and expectations so your kids know what those are. And I do feel like most kids do try to follow those. Obviously some don't, but at least the conversations have happened. So they know what as a parent, what you are expecting from them. So yeah, and that's really the last. We've got our resources at the end. We're going to post this on our website so you can have access to all the resources. I'll also include, there's another Dove video that is like a follow-up to the video we showed at the beginning that actually gives recommendations to parents as well that we can put on here, so that you have access to that.
Yeah. And like Jess said, we'll be sharing. Don't feel like you have to copy all these like long links down. I'll send out a school messenger and I'll put all those links in that messenger. I do, if you have an hour of time, the webinar that's posted at the top is the one that I watched the other day, and it was actually really, really good. They covered a lot of information. So it's, like we said, the more information you have, the more prepared you'll feel, hopefully. So I'm going to stop. I think that's the last slide. I'm going to stop. No, that was extra.
And it sounds like from the chat, the Just for Kids with Verizon, they did away with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say yes, I would remove Snapchat from, they're going to hate us for telling you that, but personally, I don't think there's any positive thing that comes from Snapchat.
Nothing.
I mean,
to actually even add to that, like I had a student who was showing me his Snapchat account, and it has like all this kind of like on Instagram or Facebook where it says like, oh, you might know these people. And it has all these random people kind of listed underneath their profile. And you can just, he goes, watch, he goes, brrr. And he goes, now if I press submit, he's like, I'm friends with all these people that I don't know. And he opened up one of them for me. And the guy was out from Massachusetts selling marijuana on Snapchat. So there's a lot of, I think, bad things that can go on, and it's not overseen by police or anything like that. So it was just really concerning. I think there's a lot of things that they can have access to through some of these apps that we wouldn't even, I never would have thought that would even be the case, because I wouldn't think that would be legal. I don't know, I guess police can't monitor all of that stuff, but it was just really concerning. Like he hadn't accepted that person because he had looked at their profile and was like, ugh, but it was there.
And like we said, I would say 90% of our drama comes from Snapchat. Snapchat and TikTok are the two, but I would say more so Snapchat is where we get a lot of drama coming into the school building.
Yeah.
So if there's any other questions, you're welcome to unmute or put them in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. You may need a session. I love that.
We'll start the parent cancels my account support group.
On the webinar that I saw yesterday, they actually said, like, try to encourage your child and yourself to take a 2-week hiatus from social media and see how much better you feel after that 2 weeks off of social media. So it might be something interesting to try with your kid, like say as a family, we're going to do this. But yeah, kids, they're so connected to it that when you take it, they don't know what to do.
Withdrawal is a real thing. Yeah. Let me tell you.
They're addicted, and these apps they want your kids to be sucked in. So like Sarah was saying with, you say one thing and it's like all of a sudden your phone is giving you all these ads because they want you sucked into it. So they want your kids to be addicted to it. That, you know, that's how they're making money. So,
and I know many parents out there, me included, a lot was much more lenient during COVID with the amount of time they were on screens for my own sanity, because I was trying to do my job and do, you know, schooling from home, but also because they weren't connected with their peers face to face. So it was like, why not let them be on it all the time? And then it's just sort of snowballed from there.
The beast.
So we'll send out a recording of this session as well as all the links that we talked about today. And of course, if you have any questions, always feel free to contact us. We hope that you found what we shared helpful, or at least gave you a starting point of things to think about and talk about with your child.
Follow us on Instagram.
Oh yes, follow us on Instagram. We actually, is a good point. We do link a lot.
I told you not to use social media.
Yeah, don't use social media.
Don't use social media, but follow us on social media. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.